Hi, I'm Jim Gordon.
And I'm Lita Leapins.
And welcome to another edition of Our City Tonight.
We're standing downtown Vancouver. As you can hear, the traffic that has re-emerged.
That's right.
And we're standing outside Homer Street Cafe and Bar.
That's right. We are happy to be kind of back out on location again. We are slowly, cautiously, but hopefully, as we've been saying the last couple shows, out in some of our favorite restaurants who are also re-emerging cautiously, safely, and hopefully as well.
We're feeling super comfortable, and today we're actually going to try some of their new summer cocktails.
Well, you are, yeah. I'll sample some food, but it's all good. That's all coming up on Our City Tonight.
Well, for our viewers out there that have been watching the show, you might recognize where we are. We're back at Homer Street Cafe and Bar, one of our favorite spots, great happy hour. But we are back with JS and looking at some great new cocktails that they have created for the reopening. We're super excited about that. JS, we're going to jump right into the first cocktail that happens to match your outfit. Always interesting cocktails here too.
Yes, so for the new list, we wanted to support our local producers, really focusing on local products. So we made this little cocktail called a Home Remedy, a twist on a modern classic, the penicillin. So we're using ginger honey that we make in-house, and using our good friends at Resurrection Spirits, a little barrel-aged rye spirit that they made for us in our own barrel. So not quite a whiskey because it's not old enough, but definitely has some whiskey characteristics. And we're also using the Mi Amada Amaro from Society Spirits in East Vancouver, and just a little bit of lemon juice as well to make it nice and bright. And we just finished everything off with we call the Vancouver sea salt water. It's just a little saline solution to bring up the flavors of the cocktail.
Excellent. Well, I can't wait to try that one. Over here, another summer sipper. Tell us a little bit about this one.
Absolutely. We created this one to bring the sun, and I think we succeeded. So this is a watermelon juice cocktail. So we juice watermelon in-house and use quite a bit of it, 90 mils, so 3 ounces of watermelon, and we use some local gin as well. And then again with Haw Society, we use their bittersweet vermouth. Again, added a little bit of bitterness, a bit of depth, and there's lots of botanical in this. Lemon juice for brightness, and a touch of sugar, because sweetness is always good. And then we use a fresh sprig of mint. There's no mint in the actual cocktail. This is meant for the olfactory sensation, so you're really smelling the mint and then tasting the watermelon. Always a great combination.
Wonderful, great summer sippers. Homer Street's always been really, really well known for supporting all our local distilleries and that. So kudos to you, and especially for them making your very own special brand there. And that leads me to special brands. You've always got a great wine list, a great wine program here. Tell us a little bit what people can expect coming in now that summer is actually here.
Yeah, we again, supporting our local producers. So we teamed up with our BC wineries, re-offering a bit of a bigger selection of BC wines in our white, especially in our rosé section, our rosé bubbles. We have some beautiful, delicious local wine, and supporting our previous partners, and as well the partners that supported us at Tableau. So bringing everybody here.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again. These look amazing. I can't wait to try them, of course, off camera. And I know that Jim is going to, well, Jim and myself are going to taste some of the food that you have this summer as well.
Excellent.
This segment of Live Debt Free is brought to you by Debtco.ca, helping Canadians get out of debt based on ability.
Well, if you missed Chris Smith on our last show, he's back with us again here. He is our financial restructuring expert. He is also the founder of Debtco.ca. Chris, we're going to get right into it. Of course, this was a rather interesting tax filing season with COVID and isolation, but it is a very stressful time for people to file debt. Talk to us a bit about how you can help people who may be encountering that kind of letter in the mail or knock on the door saying you owe the government money.
Absolutely. Jim, it's interesting. I think the government collects about $315 billion a year in taxes, yet they also have this other chunk of taxes outstanding that's about $47 billion. And that's really what we're talking about today. We're not talking about the stuff that everyone's just gone through, because that is what it is. We're talking about the ones that can't pay.
Right.
Yeah, so it's people that, with their income tax. It could be a lot of self-employed people that are, contractors, tradespeople. Could be whatever it is, GST, some payroll tax, and some personal tax. That's essentially what we're talking about here.
And going forward, how has what we've just been through over the last few months, how has that affected the way people will be filing business closes? I know that the government has been helpful in areas, but how is that going to be different this time?
Interesting. I will say the government's been fantastic. I've got a client that I speak to every week, sort of on a consulting basis, and he owes a chunk of taxes to the government, but he's communicating with them and he's talking to them, and they've been fantastic. And they're not even going to talk to him about paying that debt until September.
It leads me right into my next question beautifully about that a lot of times the average person doesn't know that there are options. Can you talk a bit about what you do and a little bit about what Detco can do as well?
Sure. So, what we're all about is helping people to learn their options and solve their problems so the math works based on ability. Mm-hmm. That's our job. We walk them, we handhold them through the process.
Right.
I think if you look at the CRA website, they have a lot of power. Mm-hmm. It's the government. They're owed $47 billion that they're looking for.
Yeah.
They can do a lot of things. They can garnish your wages. They can seize assets. They can put a lien on your home. I had a scenario once where a fellow came to me and he owed them $40,000.
Yeah.
I went to a mortgage broker and said, hey, can you help this guy out? They were set to do it. So I called CRA and said, hey, you know what? We've got this financing arranged for you. Within 30 minutes, CRA had a garnishing order in place or third-party demand on those funds that hadn't even come into play yet. So they have a lot of power. They can send the bailiff in. They can do a lot of these things. Yet, if you communicate with them, that's really step one.
Yeah.
Talk to them, but be careful. If they have this power and they want full disclosure. So if you're gonna, if you owe them $100,000, you owe them $10,000, it doesn't really matter. They want information so that they can see what your situation is, but they're also trying to figure out how they're going to collect their money.
And do they also, you hear the stories about the word intent that you do speak to them and you say, I really have the intent to pay. Are they flexible? Are they understanding for the most part?
For the most part, I believe they are. And I think it's when you avoid them and when you don't communicate with them that they get a little uptight and want to maybe flex their muscles, which they have. It's the government. They've got a lot of information on every one of us, so they can collect their money when they want to.
When you are sitting down with a client that comes to you and they're obviously very vulnerable and afraid and not sure what to do, give us a couple of steps that you first do when you sit down with a customer.
Absolutely. So what we would do is, we essentially look at four things. We're going to look at their income, their expenses, their assets, and their liabilities.
Right.
So you're looking at income to see if they have the ability to deal with to pay for the debt or their challenges or their life.
Sure.
The expenses, so where's their money going? The assets, is there something that they could sell to pay off, for example, their tax debt?
Right.
And the liabilities, how big is the tax debt? So you look at this and it's a big math equation. You try to put it all together and come up with a solution that works.
Chris, last question for you. Can you talk about some of the successes that you have had?
Absolutely. If you go and look at the CRA website, you're going to read that they will not settle their tax debt.
Right.
Yet, it is possible to reduce tax debt under certain circumstances. So, for example, we had someone recently that was an oil field worker, and he was making a fortune in the oil field, but he got behind in his record keeping, and his tax debt grew to $400,000, which is massive.
It's a lot of money.
He was making money, but nowhere near enough money to service it.
Yeah.
So we walked him through a restructuring program, and at the end of the day, he paid back about $78,000 and had 5 years to do it. Kept his home, kept his car, and kept his investments, and it was completely disclosed above board, and he got into a proposal to his creditors that was super helpful for him.
Goes back to what I was saying earlier, there are options talking to someone like you.
Absolutely.
Chris, great to have you on board as our financial restructuring expert. Chris will be back continuing on our show. He's also the founder of Detco.ca. If you missed that, we'll have all Chris's information in the end credits. Chris, we'll see you again very soon. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Jim.
This segment of Live Debt Free was brought to you by Detco.ca, helping Canadians get out of debt based on ability.
Well, we're back here at the Homer Street Cafe and Bar, where we started the show. Of course, last time you saw us, Alita was sampling cocktails. She's found a way to work her way into the food segment with me, which is why we love her, but there's lots of food to share. Joining us right now is Chef Bobby. He's the executive chef for Wentworth Hospitality, which owns this place and Tableau, and a third place soon to be named.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, welcome to our city tonight.
Well, we're excited. We got to watch you make this great food. Let's start right with the salad dish right in front of us there.
So we have our kale and quinoa salad. It has a fennel and anchovy vinaigrette, some spring peas, asparagus, pecorino romano cheese, and then some watercress and some spring greens on top.
Sounds absolutely delicious. Jim's eyeballing the one that's closer to him over there. That's
Close, but yet so far. I mean,
Yes.
it's social distancing. We're way back. We're trying to do our best here, as you can probably see. This dish I would probably already be eating, Bobby, if I were close to the table. This looks just scrumptious. What do we got?
So this is our steak tartare. It's on a grilled country bread that gets dressed with some cured sun-gold tomatoes. On top of the chopped beef is some grana padano and some chive flowers.
Very nice.
That looks delicious. And the dish in the middle looks pretty incredible. What do we have there?
So we have our roasted halibut with an arugula pesto, white bean, and leek cassoulet with a little bit of arugula and pickled shallot.
Very nice. And I need to ask, is this a gluten-free dish?
Absolutely.
Oh, excellent. Good
good.
man.
I think I know what you'll be eating when we finish filming, Lita.
They're all delicious. And then you were saying that you've moved your winter menu and you tweaked a little bit just to make it more spring, I guess, moving into the summer.
Yeah, so what we did was we condensed our menu a little bit just to allow for less staff in the restaurant right now. And we stick to what the farmers have available, what's local and in season. And we just try to keep things lighter and fresh for the warmer weather.
Pretty excited that you caught halibut season too.
Yeah, it'd be a shame to miss that one.
Lita touched on something I want to ask for my next question about not changing the menu all the time, but of course you don't want to get complacent. Can you talk a bit about what you see for the rest of the year? Any ideas, any thoughts as to what you want to add or take out?
So we're always trying to evolve again with the seasons. It's important to stay current with the ingredients that are available at hand.
Sure.
So obviously a big one that we all look forward to is tomato season. That one's coming up, right? Lots of fresh fruit, stone fruit from the Okanagan. That all those will be making their appearance in the menu along the way, and it really makes our job a lot easier. The winter months are obviously the more difficult ones for menu planning, but in the spring and summertime, everything is in abundance and makes your job really easy.
And you can be major creative and such nice light dishes that are satisfying too.
Exactly.
And all three meals we got here perfect for the wonderful cozy patio you have out front. We should mention, Lita was talking to JS earlier in the show about cocktails, of course, and a very unique and really good wine program they have here. We should talk about the wine that's on the table that JS picked out, perfect for the meals. We've got a Rosé. Lita, of course, you'll be enjoying that, and a Barche Brothers Cab Franc. So good to see you guys doing local with the wine as well.
Yeah, it really helps pair with the food and elevates the experience for the guests.
Very nice.
And
Well,
it keeps your partnerships going too. I know you're very great in supporting all the locals and BC wine as well as BC producers. So kudos again to Homer Street Cafe.
Chef Bobby, no offense to you, but we're going to eat in the food very soon. As soon as we start rolling the camera, thank you for joining us today, being here. We're going to come back at the end of the show and talk to one other person here at Homer Street Cafe and Bar. Stay tuned for that on Our City Tonight.
For our next segment, Our City Tonight heads to the Whistler Film Festival. We were there last December 2019. One of the actors I had a chance to sit down with was great character actor Joe Pantoliano. His new movie is called From the Vine. It also stars Canadian actress Wendy Crewson.
Joe, great to have you on Our City Tonight. Thank you very much for joining us here in Whistler. First of all, welcome to Whistler, and congratulations on your new film. I want to. Well, you've got so many great movies that we should take the time to talk about. I want to talk about your most present movie, which you're here to talk about, From the Vine. And can you tell us about, you talk about reinventing in second chapters and everything like that. Talk about your character, Marco, and this desire to maybe create a new life.
Well, I don't think he has a desire to create a new life. I think he's got,
Get back to.
I think he's lost.
Okay.
I think he gets godsmacked in a series of events when we are introduced to him. He's worked to the top. He's had great influence by his mentor, who was dying and gave him the company with the promise that he would fulfill the dreams of the mentor, and then he betrays that trust.
Where you should tell our viewers too, where the family, your grandfather, your character's grandfather, had the vineyard.
Yeah, and this is a guy who left the vineyard at 10 with his mom to repatriate to America to find a better life. Never goes back. It's been 50 years, and right during college he meets a Canadian woman that he falls in love with and becomes a Canadian citizen, and spent his whole adult life in Toronto.
Yeah.
And so he goes, it's like he just is this calling, and he's hearing voices, and you know, at that age, but we're at that age, I'm at that age where I feel myself becoming more and more invisible. You know, I remember waking up one day and I was old and I never got the memo. It just happened suddenly. I could tell you the time, place, and the name of the bar when women stopped looking at me.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's I think that this is a story for a lot of people that are faced with that, and so that's a theme too. And he goes back to his hometown where all of the old people, you know, they were young when they were kids, but you have the same situation there. They're still thriving and they still have a lot to do and a lot to say, but there's no work.
Yeah.
And then this dream that he has, based on conversations he's having with his dead grandfather, inspires him to take this chance and take his money without telling the wife.
Yeah, she's very understanding. Wendy Crewson, a great Canadian actress,
Yeah.
her character is very understanding in this film of your fits of fancy.
That's my favorite scene in the movie,
Yeah.
is when Wendy comes back, doesn't tell him, pissed off, upset, confused, and worried about him, like he's off his nut. And you know, and their love is reborn because it's been dormant, it's been stuck, they've been trapped in it.
You see that opening scene where they're not, you've seen so many movies where husbands and wives are not speaking. This isn't that. Like, I was surprised the character, when I think one of you says, well, you're not sleeping in the same room, but they're very pleasant to each other. But clearly there's been something lost that will get found. Your character, of course.
Well, she says we're distant, you
Yeah.
know, and he's like, what? Wait, what do you mean we're distant?
Yeah.
We're not, and yes, we are. You sleep in the other room.
This segment is sponsored by Enerex UTIX for effective all-natural urinary tract infection prevention with hibiscus flower, whole cranberries, and professional probiotics.
Well, we were here for our health and wellness segment, and we are joined by Carol Crana. We are in her self-designed apartment, which is absolutely beautiful. Carol is a certified nutritionist as well as a health educator, and she's been instrumental in helping us organize and create our health and wellness segments, and we convinced her to come on camera for this particular topic. Now, speaking of this topic, it's a rather sensitive topic. It's not something people want to talk about very often, and what I'm talking about is UTIs, or urinary tract infections. Carol, can you enlighten us a little bit about urinary tract infections?
Sure. Well, first of all, it's one of the most common infections there is. So over half of women get them.
Wow.
And it's the most common reason that a teenage girl visits a doctor, actually. And 12% of men get them. And also, well, it's really painful and inconvenient, but not too serious unless it reaches your kidney, and that it can be. And symptoms, Most women know a burning sensation when you're urinating, frequent bathroom visits, and when you get there, sometimes almost non-existent urine, sometimes fever and pelvic pain.
Something that is serious, obviously. So what causes UTIs?
Well, actually, E. coli bacteria, which is the same bacteria you think about with food poisoning and often associated with feces, it's on our skin and in our bodies all the time, and it doesn't cause problems unless it gets pushed up our urethra and our urinary tract.
Oh, so what causes this to happen then?
Well, I like to think of that as what we can't change and what we can change. We can't change our, female physiology. The fact that we have 3 very delicate, very sensitive areas that are really close to each other, and they're not supposed to mix their bacteria, but they do. And also, actually, we'll probably talk about that in the next question.
Well, so what can women do to reduce UTIs? What suggestions would you have?
Yes, a few things, but first of all, most women know careful hygiene. I think that you know about careful wiping, etc., and also making a speedy but subtle exit to the washroom right after making love. And also stress. I think people, when they think about stress, they just say, oh, well, it's one of those things, a part of life, and you don't really give any notice to your reactions about a situation. But I just feel that stress can be an acronym for stuffed, repressed emotions signaling symptoms. So that's stuffed, repressed emotions signaling symptoms. And research is showing now that a lot of times when you are repressing negative emotions, whether it's anger or anxiety or overwhelm, it can actually contribute to disease, and UTIs are no different. Think of the urgency around a UTI. It's telling you there's something happening. You can't just overlook it. You've got to do something about it. Yes.
And you also shared with us a little bit about harsh perfumes.
Yes, exactly. And that's the other thing, that today we're using so many perfumed, harsh types of cleansers, whether it's shower gel or bubble bath. And when they get into that area, they irritate the urethra, and they actually do put your bacteria out of balance as well.
Well, importantly too, foods that can help combat this, as well as supplements that can alleviate more naturally than the antibiotics, but I know that's important too. But can you let us know a little bit more about that?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I think every woman knows the wonders of cranberries. And why do they work? Well, research has actually shown that they have something called proanthocyanins, that are just an antioxidant that actually stops E. coli bacteria from clinging to the sides of our urinary tract and actually entering cells. So most women take a cranberry cocktail, which is fine, but it does have a lot of sugar, and actually sugar can feed bacteria. So if you can take the whole pure juice, it's really bitter, but if you can, much better. And also supplements, getting a high quality supplement that's only got whole cranberry is really important. Not just the extract, but the whole cranberry, otherwise it doesn't work. So science is saying now. Also, hibiscus flower, that beautiful flower that we think of, the petals have been used in tea for centuries, and it actually works very similarly to cranberries, also stopping E. coli from entering cells, but it's also a diuretic, which means you urinate more often, so it speeds that infection to clear it quickly.
Wonderful. And probiotics, we'll end on that.
Yes, exactly.
Super important.
Most people have heard about probiotics. It's been researched for decades. And since we're using antibiotics that really work well, but it's kind of like using a shotgun to kill a mouse. It overkills it. And it's also killing good bacteria. So when you replenish your system with good bacteria, it rebalances to, especially the bad bacteria. So you are helping to prevent UTIs in the future.
Wonderful information, and as Carol said, make sure it's a high quality supplement if you are going to be supplementing to reduce and alleviate UTI. Thanks, Carol. Carol Crenna, who is a certified nutritionist as well as a health educator, here for our health and wellness segment. Thanks, Carol.
Thank you.
This segment was sponsored by NRX UTIX for effective all-natural urinary tract infection prevention with hibiscus flower, whole cranberries, and professional probiotics.
Well, we're back here where we began the show, Homer Street Cafe and Bar. We're out on the patio doing a little social distancing. We're with Roy Kamasadi, who is the, get the last name right?
You got the
Oh, look at me, boy.
Well done.
He is the Vice President of Operations for Wentworth Hospitality, of course, heavily involved in this restaurant. And he's joining us to talk a little bit before we say goodbye.
And we're so thrilled that Homer Street's back in action with all the chickens. And what are you guys doing? Would you say you're doing anything differently now that we're in completely new norm, different times?
Yeah, we're doing a lot of things differently, obviously, with the sanitation and hygiene protocols, making sure that our guests and our staff are safe and they feel comfortable coming into our restaurant. The other thing that we really worked hard on is just creating a more compelling package for takeaway and for delivery. So, you know, and internally, the other things that we were working on is just testing out new menu items and, you know, continuing the innovation with our products.
No one wanted this to happen, obviously, but what's been really interesting is to see how places have been adapting. You know, you guys are right out of the gate, cautiously offering locals other things you can do, more takeout, all kinds of things. And now that really has become part of your landscape, has it not?
Yeah, it has. You know, one of the things that's very near and dear to us is just embracing the local community and making them feel like they have a place that's safe to come to and that they're familiar with, and they see regular people working at Homer Street every day. So that's big for us.
Yeah, well, we know we love coming here, and it's great seeing all your faces again. It almost feels normal for us.
It is the new norm, but we're happy to be back at Homer Street Cafe and Bar. Roy, thank you very much, and thanks to JS and everybody else here. I'm Jim Gordon.
And I'm Lita Leapins.
We'll see you on the next edition of Our City Tonight.
This segment of Live Debt Free was brought to you by Debtco.ca, helping Canadians get out of debt based on ability.
Sponsorship for the health and wellness segment is provided by NRX Botanicals Limited.
Outdoor wear for Jim and Lita provided by Helly Hansen, alive since 1877.
Youngblood Mineral Cosmetics provided by Soluzione Spa Products.